Hello everybody, my name is Claude Webster. I'm a performance coach and today I put together a special for musicians. When I speak about performance preparation, I propose two pillars to keep in mind. The outer game, which refer to all the abilities that you need to master in order to perform in that activity, and the inner game, which relates more to the psychological approach, the interferences that can come, and when you arrive to perform, we need to put those two elements together. Today, as an example of the outer game, I will show you how I approach music making in order to better tie all of those actions that we need to make with the psychological aspect. I usually make a parallel with driving a car and music making. The idea being, when you learn to drive a car, you have lots of actions to learn, to master, to put together, and at the beginning you're slow or slower, and you need to look at the mirror, look at the other mirror, change gears, check in if there's someone that you can't see, and then go back again. There are many operations, many actions that need to happen. After repetitions and repetitions, you suddenly become much more at ease, and all those actions are actually now more automatism. They become automatic. You still do something. It's the same with music making. If you do nothing, the car won't move. Musicians often tell me, when I go on stage, I want to do nothing. When I do nothing, it flows. Well, actually, for the music to flow, for the actions to flow, you need to do something. Otherwise, your car won't move. It's the same. But it's minimal. The actions are 3/4 automatic and 1/4 animated with a clear conscious action. Today, I will look at the actions that have to do with the music making. It's a little bit like putting cards into a computer, giving it clear orders. It's as if your brain, when you perform, needs to have lots of different actions pre-programmed for you to stay focused on the course of action. So to make sure that the interferences, which are more what I call the inner game aspect of it, and they basically stay outside of your zone. It's as if I'm in a bubble, I'm in my zone of excellence, I can perform, and for that I need to keep all the fear, the stress, the criticism, the judgment, the inner dialogue, all of that outside of my zone. There are many ways to help you stay in your zone. Today, this outer game aspect, should give you some ideas as to how to pre-program yourself and really clarify your goals of actions from your ability that you need to master as part of your outer game. It will be the same process with the inner game, which I did address in the goals of actions in a more precise way. So today, let me show you that grid, that chart that I use for musicians. This is what I use when I work with singers and musicians as a map, as a clear map of all the elements that we need to take care of in order to perform well musically. I call that the pyramid of a musician. It's a pyramid, or it could be some people call that more of a wedding cake. The idea is to really extract all the elements that we need to address, to prepare, in order to perform at our best. And there's a sense of hierarchy that I organized as well. The first level here, which is like the base, what I would call the foundation. It has to do like when you build a house, you need a very solid foundation. It's not necessarily fun, beautiful, but it's extremely important. Sometimes I refer to it as the cooking level. This is where I cook, where I prepare my stuff. So as a musician here, there are things you need to learn. You need to learn the notes. So pitch, rhythm are two very important elements. Not very exciting. Sometimes it's very easy, but sometimes it's very hard, and it may take several weeks just to learn the notes of what we call. Singers have also another element, pronunciation, because they sing in many different languages. Other musicians sometimes have other elements, like oboe players will need to work on the reeds all the time. Here, it's what are the elements that you need that are really basics in order to prepare. And the last one, the most important one that everybody has, is the technique. So for singers, I call that the vocal technique. That needs a lot of work because we make music. Music has to do with auditory. We're making sounds. So we need to free each sound. So it will be, for me, it's a bass element to put here. Just above, remember, I separate all the elements even though they are all interconnected. Here we have the musical, I put the musical elements. Number one, the most important one that I keep referring to more often than others, is phrasing. Phrasing is the grouping, the organization of the material when you make music. Some people call that the direction. In order to give that direction, the sign that we musicians use is this line, and we organize this raising of the phrase and the going down. It looks like an arch. It could feel like a wave for those who are more kinesthetic, and it's organized with crescendo, sustain here, and then decrescendo. It's the organization of that phrase that makes it musically extremely well prepared or well organized. There are a few other elements, style, that will make a difference. If you sing, if you do French music from the 17th century or from the 19th century, stylistically, there are certain elements that you will need to take care of. Rubato won't be necessarily the same. The freedom within the phrases might be organized differently, depending on the style. Here I put also harmonic elements. When you have chords that are unusual, everything that has to do with the harmony within the music, sometimes I will bring this aspect out. And then the third, the higher level, here I say for the last, is, I can use different names. The message or the emotion. It has to do with the communication aspect. It's also the soul, the music. When we say, there's so much music in what he's doing, it's wonderful, but it has to do with here, it's what's the mood, which for me is the most important question that we need to ask ourselves. What is the mood of each phrases that we're doing? We're telling a story, and we're telling a story with sounds, it's musicians, but those sounds are filled with an emotion. In these levels of organization, I like to refer to them as balls. They all have their importance. This is a ball, this is a ball, this is a ball, this is another ball, and this is a ball. It's as if, I don't know if you can see, maybe I'll need to lower this a little bit. It's a little bit as if you're juggling. And when you make music, you need to juggle with all the elements. You cannot have only one, like the sound that you make. You need to juggle with all of those balls at the same time. So they all have their own importance, depending of if it's at the beginning. Sometimes you need to vary the importance depending of your preparation, depending of the pieces, depending of many other aspects. But in general, I can make a generalization as to what is more important. Very often I ask the singers in order to figure out what's most important. Is it this level, or this level first to figure out before we go for each ball? It's a tricky question because if we refer to it as, let's say in the university or in the conservatory when you study, you spend a lot of time here and usually here. And this is more the icing on the cake. Some people has more. There's a big amount of time that is spent here in mastering this because it's the foundation, it's extremely important. But if it doesn't go high enough, it's rather, I was going to say, boring. It's important, but it's academic. And then if I play devil's advocate, if someone has here what's the mood, is a strong emotional connection with music, but the rhythm is not totally correct, the pronunciation is average, and the vocal technique is sometimes okay, but it's not all even and stuff, but the emotion is very clear, it's very strong. It sounds like a very good amateur. So in order to be a professional musician, we need to address all of this. It's as if each of those elements are a ball, and we need to organize them. Which one will be first? I mentioned to you that this freeing of the sound, because we're making music, is extremely important. I refer to it as, let's say I use, with vocal technique, two elements. One is the buzz, the placement of the sound, and the other one is the air, the use of the air, the support. So the idea is to find the order of the balls that we're going to play with when you go on stage, in order to remember to give you clear actions, in order to busy your brain so that you're so occupied with your job, what it is that you have to do, that you have no time for the inner negative dialogues. So in order to clarify your goals, I would very often propose to the musicians, your first cue has to do with the freeing of the sound. If I give the example with the singers, it has to do with, we need two things. The breath, because it's an air instrument, a wind instrument using the air. So let's say, inspiration. Inspiration means two things. Breathe in physically. What do you need to do with your body as a singer or as any wind instrument? There are some physical elements, and at the same time, when you breathe in, we breathe to say something. We don't breathe and then be angry, or breathe and then say I love you. We breathe to say something. So here there's an intention. So it's as if this has to do with this. So the air has to do with what's the mood, in order of clarifying what am I about to say. Each of these balls, whether it's making the first sound, the second sound I will start the action of phrasing as well. It could be bringing my intention also to have the correct rhythm or the pronunciation. Each ball will have a coding of what's the mood, of the emotion. On each of these elements, I use tools, lots of tools to help people clarify and discover what it is in each phrases, in each section of the piece, in order to give them a better, a clearer action to do. For example, as a wind instrument, singers here, even before to take the inspiration, you need to exhale. Just to bring your attention to, especially when you're nervous, to exhale. And then breathe in, so you can breathe in with an intention and with a preparation of what your body needs. That's already goals of actions. It's as if your goals of actions could have all of these inside, and they can also have a psychological element, which has to do more with, I want to be proactive instead of being small. I want to be tall. I want to take a lot of room. I want to be playful. Those are adjectives that has to do more with the inner game, the actions. These needs to be tied in as well with your actions, with each of those elements. In my approach of performance preparation, I always use the expression one step at a time, one little step. I refer to it a little bit like, it's as if you make a fire. In order to light a fire, you cannot put fire to a big log. You need all small little pieces, and by putting fire in all those little elements, suddenly the bigger logs can also start to burn and make a big fire. So in order to have a big performance, we need to take care of little things, and those little things need to be taken care of one step at a time. So if you have any questions or comments, don't hesitate to contact me. It will be a pleasure for me to answer you or to address it in another video. Thank you.